people who are watching this carry guns for self-defense. That's why they have their gun. When should they pull out that gun, or when are they legally allowed to pull out that gun and use it, and do so in a manner that will keep them out of prison? That's what we're trying to teach people, is how to stay alive and how to stay out of jail. Those are the two questions that everybody wants to know. So I'm asking my attorney buddy, Tom, when do you pull out your gun? When can you use your gun?
I would generally say when you absolutely have to, because very often you have to understand that, so we have our laws which generally say that you are allowed to produce and use a firearm or any kind of deadly force when you're in reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily harm. The problem is people suck.
Yeah.
The problem is if you pull out a firearm, you never pointed at someone else, the threat goes away. Well, I have seen cases where the threat, now we call them the victim,
The victim
calls the cops and say that you pointed a gun at them. That it is such a cliche that it's a joke in my office about the fact that anytime we've got a client who, okay, we talked to the client said, yep, I pull out a firearm, I never pointed it at him or anything like that, because we always ask. And then it's implied that when we hear the other side of the story, it's, yep, oh, he pointed a gun right at me.
Right in my
face. It was
face.
just waving it around, right? Yeah. So you have to understand that anytime you pull out a firearm, unless the whole thing is covered by video footage, it is going to be said that you were pointing it at people, waving it around, and probably yelling crazy things. Now, I'm not saying never pull a firearm out. I'm just saying that, again, you are jumping into the Shark Tank, right? When you pull that firearm out, even if you're not conceptualizing yourself as that way, because, hey, you're doing everything, you're training, you know you're being safe, you know you're being legal, you're not pointing at anyone, you're not breaking any intentionally pointing laws, you're not doing anything wrong, so to speak. But that may not be the way that you are treated by the justice system. So I'm not saying never pull out your firearm. I'm not saying don't practice smooth draws. I'm just saying understand that there's a time that's too early to use force, and there's a time that's too late to use force, and use force only when you absolutely have to save your life or the life of another one, whether that's someone you love or that's someone you don't know and you're just being the good Samaritan. But from the moment that that firearm clears leather or Kydex, you are now in the Shark Tank, even if you never pull the trigger. And statistically, we know that depending upon the study you want to talk about, 88 to 92% of the time, you're never going to pull that trigger.
Yeah.
The bad guy sees a good guy who's armed, they're gone.
He's looking for a soft target. And as we go through this, and as we talk about these things, and we'll talk about more and more things over the course of the months and years as we put this together, I think people need to understand that there's not often going to be a bright line that says, now pull your gun. It is going to be open to interpretation, and there are going to be 2 or 3 or 4 sides to every story. And what you tell your attorney following the incident is not going to be what is on the police report from the witness statements taken by the officers who arrived at the scene 15 minutes later and talked to somebody who, I wasn't doing nothing, and this big guy in a gray shirt just pointed his gun in my face and told me he was going to kill me. That wasn't what happened. So yeah, it's terrible that we've got to wait till the last minute to pull our gun, if we pull it at all, but that's just the way it is. And we've talked about this for years, that it might not be right and it might not be fair, but we're telling people what really happens, and you don't have to like it, you just have to deal with it.
Yeah, you can deny reality, but you cannot deny the consequences of denying reality. And this is one of those moments where you can say that that's not fair and you don't like it, but you can't deny the consequences of denying this fact that, yeah, this is what likely can and will happen. And we're not asking to like that. We're only the messengers. But this is what happens out there. And we talk about reasonable prosecutors and unreasonable prosecutors, and you have to understand that this is one of those situations where you can take the exact same stack of police reports, put it on 5 prosecutor desks, and get 5 different charging decisions. Because as you know, as retired law enforcement, and I know as an ex-state prosecutor and criminal defense attorney, that cops and the culture may vary from where you are, but generally speaking, the cops investigate, they arrest, they write reports, they pass it off. The prosecutors are the ones that are making the decision of, am I going to charge exactly what the officer put on the cover sheet? That, yeah, I'm asking for charges X, Y, Z. Prosecutor can say, yep, I agree, good to go, you nailed it. They could issue no charges. They could completely change it. They can add, subtract, divide, multiply, whatever it is. They can do all those things. It's the prosecutors that are ultimately pulling the strings and calling the shots on what they want to see happen on that.
Thanks again for the insight. We're going to do this more often. We will follow through on not only the tactical side, but the legal side as well. We want to keep people alive and keep them out of jail.
Sounds great. Thanks, Kevin. Looking forward to it.
Did you know we have a secret gun giveaway going on right now you can enter for free? But it ends really soon. Just click the link in the description below to reveal which brand new gun you could win.